Stephen Stone here, and welcome to the Analog Studio Barn Find. I'm slowly acclimating to this reality here of, I should say dealing with this, documenting this. It's really quite an exciting adventure, so I hope you join me and certainly subscribe and come along on this journey with me. I think it's really going to be an interesting thing. So after a week of thinking about this, I can usually only get up here about once a week. But in the meantime, we've got the backwards aspect, going back in time, and got these stacks and stacks of reel-to-reel tapes in the back here, and there's also some locked up cabinets that I haven't even gotten to, closet. But anyway, stacks of tapes going back. I noticed one said 1973 on it. There may be stuff older. There's a lot of tapes, just stacks and stacks. So we've got the backward looking, the archival aspect of seeing what's on these tapes. It could be anything from, who knows, I mean, it could be the lost great tapes of something. It could be nothing. I mean, maybe they're just blank, although I don't think they're going to be blank. Certainly, my feeling is that this is a pretty serious situation here with all the instruments and all these great guitars, drum sets, keyboards, the Hammond organ, the Leslie, the Rhodes, piano, all this stuff. I'm pretty confident there's going to be some pretty interesting music. I feel like there were some good players in here, just intuitively. So the backward looking, the archival aspect, and I'm going to be really careful with that, making sure that the tape machines are all working correctly, going through those one by one. There's a bunch of machines in here. I'm just familiar enough with this stuff. I did spend some time working in studios back in the day, and I'm comfortable getting around here. I'm not an expert on anything, but I'm not going to have trouble testing tubes and cleaning heads and doing the basic if any rewiring needs to be done, that sort of thing. Bring in the experts as we need them, and just take that process in a calculating way and in a careful way, because you never know what's on some of this tapes. Now there's the present, which is basically dealing with any restoration that needs to be done, some of the instruments, that sort of thing. Again, the recording gear, getting that all up to workable condition again. And then we're looking forward into what could this be? Could this be a functional studio again? And bringing in new musicians, younger musicians, a new generation of musicians coming up here, performing, recording, and using the old methodology, which was has a validity to it. There's a lot of great music was made with reel-to-reel tape machines. Whether you can argue about the sound, or I don't want to go down the digital versus analog thing and all that, but I think it's more just kind of a process of going through the recording process in a way that's different than what's going on now. I recently heard an interview with Paul McCartney where he talked about not being able to read music, which I was really shocked. I didn't know that. I assumed that he did. And he mentioned that music was always something that he heard and that he experienced in his mind, and it was never something that he looked at. It was never something that he read. And it kind of made me think about how we all do music today on computers and looking at a computer screen and looking at the algorithms and the WAV files. And it becomes a very visual thing. It's like, oh, the levels are right, and you can see everything on a screen. And in the tape machine era, it was not that way at all. It was always focusing on the ears and what you heard. And you had monitors, you're listening, and you had the VU meters on the reel-to-reel machines that you could see the levels if it was going into the red. And people would argue, yeah, you want it to be a little bit in the red and get that little tape saturation thing going on. But really it was more of an ear thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I never really thought about that before. So again, something to the old way. I mean, a lot of great historic albums were made with the reel-to-reel machines and the limitations that they had. Maybe those limitations brought out something in the musicians and the engineers that, is different than what's going on now. So curious about that, really curious about what's on the tapes. The Present gonna do the restoration, whatever needs to be done, check out all the amps, the tubes, test everything. And we've got power in here, lights, and they're making sure everything's grounded and that nothing gets damaged. And then the moving forward, looking at the future and what we could potentially do here. So again, subscribe, join me on this journey. I think it's going to be quite exciting. We've also got stacks and stacks of vinyl records back there. I mean, thousands of vinyl records, and they're pretty well organized actually. I was surprised to see that. One thing that I noticed is that I didn't really see anything past the early 80s, so I don't know if that kind of helps date what was going on in here, but I think the most recent album that I saw in there maybe was a U2 album from 1983 or something like that. Everything else seems to be 70s, 60s, 50s. So an incredible collection. So a lot of that music, probably some, I haven't even been through it, I just kind of looked through and just scratching the surface. So there's a lot to be discussed and learned from there as well. And then ultimately the mystery here of what happened and who was in here, I really don't know at this point. I'm sure at some point I'm going to find out, and we're going to find out who was here. There'll be some older cats that'll be like, yeah, we used to record here back in the day and that sort of thing. So that's an exciting thing to think about. I would love to have some of those people come back here and talk about what it was like to record in here and what they did. Hopefully that happens. And just bringing in different people to come in here and discuss some of these things and bring some experts in or specialists in there, get somebody in here that really knows how to tune up a drum set or, work on a piano or, restore things that need to be done. I'll do what I can do, the best that I can. And like I said, we'll bring in experts when needed. And then I'm going to need to bring in some sort of digital interface here to bring the music into the modern world. I'll probably go with some kind of higher resolution, like a Blu-ray 2496 conversion or something like that, that we can, archive and catalog some of this stuff moving forward. And I do have some of that gear I can bring up here. I'll probably do that in the next couple of weeks and get ready to start with that too, getting the machines working and the tube amps and all that stuff. So it's quite exciting. So in the last week, what I did find that seemed a bit out of place was there was an old Gibson Flying V guitar that was sitting in the back of the room over there, and it looked like it had been torn apart and in bad condition. So I just took that and did a restoration on it this last week, and that's this guitar right here. It didn't look like this when I picked it up, but anyway, I refinished it, and the main problem was that the bridge here was too close, so it was throwing off the harmonics at the 12th fret, so it would never really be tuned up correctly. I'm not sure how that happened. I'm guessing somebody messed around with it, and maybe that's why it wasn't on the rack over here. But anyway, so this should be a pretty nice guitar now. I went through it and patched up somebody had cut a hole in it and put a Floyd Rose in it. And I patched that all up and then moved the bridge into the right place and the saddle, and then redid the electronics in here, which were basically just kind of gutted, and put it back into the basically the original wiring diagram. I think this is one of the ones from the early 70s. So probably not a collector's item with the work that had been done kind of thing, a hole cut in it and that sort of thing. But plays really nicely now. So I think it's I think of Flying V's. I think of I think of Michael Schenker playing that thing. Great guitar, but also has a history too. I think Albert King in the blues, Jimi Hendrix had a Flying V. So yeah, I'm looking to learn more about these guitars. I quickly think metal and hard rock, Flying V's, but there's a history prior to that with the Flying V guitar. So looking forward to learning more about that myself, and hopefully there'll be some people who will come forward and have some information on these things too. So these are the kind of things I think are going to be exciting to go through the instruments and amplifiers and drum sets and the keyboards and the tapes and the albums and all this, and just sort of reassessing this whole era of really great music. And I think about the potential of maybe groups back then that didn't make it big but might have been close, or they just didn't get signed or whatever. There could be stuff like that going on. There could be famous groups that have been in here and did certain things, certain musicians and that sort of thing. So anyway, it's all an exciting adventure. So again, subscribe. I welcome you to come on this journey with me, and we will see you next time. I'm going to try and post an episode, if I can, once a week, and try and get that posted on Sundays. So check back, and we'll see you real soon. Stephen Stone, Analog Studio, Barn Find.